Hello, everyone, and welcome to this next episode of the EV Bids podcast. My name is Tory Hornsby. I have with me here Rod Stuckey. How's it going, Rod?
It's going great, Tory. Good to be here as always.
Yep, good to see you. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the used EV market and looking at what values are doing, and basically just getting an update. We have a bit of a challenging market that's going on right now. So tell us what's happening with the used EV market right now, Rod.
Well, here we are in the spring of 2024. We're recording this today on particularly March 19th of 2024. And there was just a recent study that IC Cars did, very thorough. These guys are really good. It was released on March 8th of 2024. And the headline is used electric cars have dropped 10 times faster than gasoline models over the past year. And so when you try to analyze whether you're selling a used EV or buying a used EV, there's just a lot going on, and we're definitely in, a buyer's market, not a seller's market. And this is a great report to try to kind of dive into these numbers and understand a little bit more about what's going on with the used EV market right now.
Yeah, I think some people listening to this podcast might look at, a difference of 10 times the drop in value for a used EV and be surprised at that. We probably have some people who were looking at that and going, yeah, I kind of expected that based on what's been going on in the market. But looking at that a little more granularly in terms of February, because that's the data that we have here in March, is we have the numbers for February. What does that look like for us for the used EV market compared to the ICE, internal combustion engine market?
Yeah, so the average used car price is down 3.6%, which, year over year, that sounds pretty normal, not too bad, or maybe you could argue even pretty good. However, used EV prices have fallen 31.8% since last year. So almost 32% drop as compared to a 3.6% drop by the fellow internal combustion engine vehicles. So that is significant.
It's incredibly significant. And just putting a dollar amount to that, the average used car price, and this is just so everybody understands, these are vehicles that are 1 to 5 years old that are for sale at the time. And looking at that number year over year, that 3.6% difference on the gas side is $1,161. So the average vehicle price in March of 2023 has dropped $1,161 on the gas side. When we look at the EV side, man, that 31.8%, it's $14,418. That is insane.
Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah. So it's $30,904, the average used EV price. And that's, $14,000 difference. So let's just looking at this a little bit more granularly. And I'm going to, for those who are on listening to the podcast, we'll talk through this. For those of you who are watching video, I'm going to share my screen here. And Rod, let's take a look at, what does this look like, over a rolling average of the last 12 months here.
Yep. So that was the February numbers, February of 24 numbers we just covered. To get a little bit more of a macro analysis over the last 12 months, used EV prices have fallen between 17 and 39% year over year during the last 12 months. So again, when we're analyzing the numbers, it's always as compared to what. And so we're comparing EV prices from this year to this time last year, and we've seen a 17 to 39% year over year drop.
And the good news is, 31.8% is horrible, but the good news is that
you're reaching here with the good news, Tory, but I'm going to let you go with it.
Yeah, and the good news is there is good news here. In September, it was nearly 40%. So when we look at August of 2023 and September of 2023, year over year pricing was down 38.7% in August and 39.1% in September. So we have shown some sign of improvement. So 31.8% is still horrible, but at least we are seeing an improvement that we're starting to get a little bit better. But really, wouldn't you say, Rod, that we're in a period that almost had to happen? We had to reconcile this and get to a place to where we were correcting the market. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's that's the word that I kind of keep choosing to use of what is happening right now is a correction happening in the market. We know that we did a podcast a couple of weeks ago or maybe a month ago now, but Hertz, unloading a large amount of their inventory from their balance sheet of Teslas. We know that Elon Musk got aggressive with price cuts as much as 35%. We know that there's been a flood of other manufacturers jump into the EV game. And we know that the manufacturers have just flat out overestimated the demand for EVs. And so all of this has created this perfect storm of a larger supply than there is a demand. And when you have a larger supply than you have a demand, only one thing can happen, and that is that prices are going to begin to drop.
Yep. And here, for those who can't see, we're looking at a line chart where it's showing the average price month by month of electric vehicles that are 1 to 5 year old that are for sale in the marketplace. And there's it's just a representation of that big gap. The red line is the current year, and the blue line is the previous year. And it's a huge difference, that $14,000 you can see here. And when we compare that to that same line chart for other vehicles, it's just not very much. So for ICE vehicles, we have that it's 3.6% difference to 7.4% difference, which is $1,100 to $2,500. And I think that's an easier pill to swallow, that vehicle pricing market correction has gone down $2,500 to $1,100, to where on the EV side, it's at the largest month in August of 2023, $22,846 difference year over year. That's a lot to swallow in one single year. But just moving on here, Rod, Tesla, they really kind of set the standard here, and they have been at least a large culprit of the cause of this. What does their market valuation or drop in used prices look like compared to other OEMs?
Yeah, so Tesla, in terms of, and this is kind of interesting, we'll jump into looking at the brands, the manufacturers, and then we'll actually dive into some of the specific models. But from a manufacturer perspective, Tesla as a brand, their prices have fallen 28.9, so 29%, which is a reflection of their aggressive price cuts, which drove down values really not only across Tesla, but across the entire EV market. So, sadly, Tesla is leading the way in terms of price drops. And again, just as a reminder for those who have not been on our other calls or aren't aware or new to the Tesla game, Elon back recently, last fall, he began, with some aggressive price cuts. There was the market had shifted. I mentioned a lot of other manufacturers had gotten in the game. There was an auto worker union strike. He had also raised his prices significantly throughout COVID when there was such a high demand. And as the demand fell, the competition increased, he began lowering prices on his new units and across the board. And that has reflected and really carried over in a domino effect to the used market, particularly with Teslas.
And that the pricing started, mid to late last year. It was as much as on new vehicles, a 35% drop in price at with one price update, which is, man, that's hard to overcome. It really means that they were way too aggressive with their price increases throughout COVID, because when you drop the price of a vehicle by 35%, it's impossible for it not to have a larger macro impact on the used car market, especially for that specific model, and then even collectively as the EV industry as a whole. But to your point, Rod, this is not a Tesla induced. They're certainly part of the issue, but this isn't all caused by Tesla. The government getting involved and really cramming used EVs down people's throats, and all of the other OEMs, as you mentioned just a second ago, the EV market is very healthy, and it'll continue to get better and improve. And there is a demand there. I mean, heck, with Tesla year-over-year pricing at 28.9% here, you're talking about still a brand that sold over 500,000 more vehicles and had their biggest year of growth in terms of vehicle sales than any other year in the past. So not a Tesla problem specifically, but man, we just got to let the EV market get back to where we're not pushing more than what the market can bear, which is where we've kind of been with this. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you want to define healthy. I think that we've obviously, I mean, if you're an enthusiast like we are, you see Teslas all over the place. I mean, I see all different brands of EVs all over the place. But is the market healthy? Particularly, we're discussing the used EV market. It's healthy right now we're in a buyer's market, not a seller's market. And so, during COVID, it was a seller's market, and everyone that had a used Tesla could sell them for what they paid for them brand new, or close to it, or a little bit more, and then it's just kind of interesting how quickly how fluid the market changes, and now we're very much in a buyer's market. And if you're in the market to buy a used EV, it is a healthy, great market and a great time to do it. If you are in the market to sell your used EV, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed in what the fair market value is of your EV.
Doesn't feel too healthy. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because when I say healthy, what I mean is there's still a demand for the vehicles.
Yeah,
people are still buying them, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because from a pricing perspective, man, it doesn't feel too healthy if you're trying to sell one. That's a really good point. And just for those of you who can't see the screen here, what we're looking at is by brand, by manufacturer, what does the used pricing look like year over year? And number one, in terms of the biggest year over year price drop, is Tesla at $14,808, which is 28.9% difference. And number two is Alfa Romeo, and they're at a $4,400 difference and 13%. So Tesla is a big culprit. It's a big part of this, not solo, but that's a big difference. Number three is Maserati at a $4,800 or 9% difference. Lincoln, I'll go top five. Lincoln, $4,000 difference at 8.2%. Volvo, $2,900 at 7.9%. So you can look at those top five and see it go from, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. When then we hit Tesla, it's nearly $15,000 price difference. So that's huge. And now, just looking in, Rod, you mentioned the models. Let's go down here and look at the models. Which models have had the biggest impact?
Yeah, and this is kind of interesting because Tesla doesn't lead the way here. The Chevrolet Bolt EV leads the way here with a 30% year-over-year difference for a $7,800 difference, then followed by the Nissan Leaf, the Kia Niro EV, the Hyundai Kona electric, and then we get into 5, 6, and 7 are the Tesla X, 3, and S. So, and then Alfa Romeo, Jaguar, and Mercedes round out the top 10. So, and this is where, we got to kind of circle back and reference how many other EV manufacturers have gotten into the game. So while Tesla has taken, from a manufacturer's perspective, because they're all electric, right? So when you're looking at the manufacturer's numbers, Tesla's the only manufacturer we're looking at really that's 100% electric that's reflected in those numbers. But if you get into the model specific, all the manufacturers are struggling. And again, that comes back to the demand just not being there. The United States is a much different market than Europe and some of the other markets. We're very spread out here, and we're also a lot different culture here, and there's just a lot of reasons that the manufacturers, in their defense, they knew that they were being pushed very, very hard by regulations and requirements to move in this direction. And the consumer has said, whoa, not so fast. And so, it's not just this chart, the Chevrolet, the Nissan, the Kia, the Hyundai being the top 4 illustrate that it's not just Tesla from a model specific perspective that is seeing a humongous year over year price drop. I mean, I don't know what a Bolt costs brand new, but $8,000 drop in 1 year for a fairly economical vehicle is a lot. So
for used, especially it is. So I do think that we're in a time of market correction, as you mentioned, Rod. And there's no telling how much longer we're going to be in this and how much longer we're going to be in a seller's market. Any thoughts on that?
I think that just as quickly as we've seen the adjustment from the COVID era of a higher demand than there was a supply to now, that seems like it's happened very quickly, but less realistically, it's been a couple of years, right? So I think it would be realistic to expect that this could correct relatively quickly in a couple of years. That may not seem quickly if you're depending upon your situation. If you buy a pre-owned EV right now, you're probably not going to be too disappointed in a couple of years with where you're at. But if you're trying to sell right now, it just depends on where you're at in your ownership cycle, is in terms of your level of satisfaction with the market conditions as they are today.
Yep. Well, I do want to put a shameless plug in here, Rod, just for anybody looking to sell an EV or a plug-in hybrid PHEV. EV Bids is dedicated to having a very fun and exciting way to sell your EV. Live auctions, man, there's nothing like them. If you've not experienced looking and watching one hit the final period, with minutes left, it gets so exciting. Check out evbids.com for that. And if you'd like to get a market evaluation for your EV and see what a reserve price for your auction might look like, man, give us a shout. You can send us an email at info@evbids.com, or you can visit www.evbids.com and go to the link at the top of the page that says sell your EV. We'd love to have your business. Rod, any final notes before we conclude the podcast?
Nope. Just hang in there for those of you that are looking to sell, and for those of you that are looking to buy, it's a great time to buy. And to Tory's point, the great thing about an auction is it really allows the true market conditions to set the price based on the true supply and demand. So it's a great way. We are carefully white glove service to ensure safe and secure transactions for all. Sellers can put a reserve price to protect themselves, of course. And so it's a great way if you don't want to trade in and you don't want to deal with all the hassles of, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, et cetera, the potential scams and whatnot. It's just a great, fun, exciting, safe and secure way to get a fair market value, whether you're buying or selling.
It really, it's takes what is often a miserable experience of dealing with all the Facebook Messenger messages and other marketplace shenanigans, and makes it fun and exciting. And then we deal with all of the other, the paperwork and all of the not fun stuff for you. So again, check us out. Send us an email, info@evbids.com. Again, I'm Tory Hornsby for Rod Stuckey. Thank you for joining this episode of our podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Tory.